So much has happened since that rainy day. Go away. Come again. Never again. Okay. I'm not saying the rhyme. I'm not saying the rhyme because right here, right now, it is time to prepare. Well, I guess they already have go across the pond. Okay. And we are going to face the Minnesota Vikings. And it's my favorite day of the week. It's third party Thursday. So you best believe we're bringing someone in there to talk about that game and he knows what he's talking about. Let's do it right here, right now. Boy Green meets Wudi.
Wudi Counter, can you guys help us get a jet chant here? Yeah, going. Oh. Okay, right. Come on in. Let's go. Okay.
Third Party Thursday.
Chris joining us here on the program with a capital P here on the program.
Wow, what an intro. I mean, Boy Green is known for having the intro, but Wudi, that was unreal, man. Thanks for the kind words.
We are men of many names.
My favorite Austrian Jets fan right there, baby. Boy Green meets Wudi.
Woo!
Brand new intro. Wow.
Yes. Wow. I don't know who did that. Or maybe we do. Maybe we do. But it is fantastic. Welcome to a brand new episode of Boy Green Meets Wudi with the brand new intro. All right, number one Austrian Jets fan. He's already in the comments. He's in the intro. Immortalized in the intro. But it's not just us.
No.
It's not just us. No, it's Third Party Thursday.
Thank you. Oh, hey now. Go ahead.
So we got to talk to somebody who knows their team. This is what we've been doing this all season, all right? We've been bringing in people from the enemy camp, all right? But they're not enemies today, okay? And that is no exception to today. Today, we have somebody from A to Z Sports, all right? Somebody from Score North. He actually looks like the logo personified. The logo came to life. Please allow me to welcome Tyler Fornes. Come on down. How you doing, my good sir?
Hello. I do look like a Viking. I used to work with Thor Nystrom in NBC Sports, as you can see my dog Cheddar making an appearance. And it was
Welcome,
funny
Cheddar.
because, yeah, hey, say hi, Cheddar. Thor that has the name of a Viking, and I looked like him, so combined we were one complete Viking. But yeah, it's born and raised in Minnesota. I have to cheer for my hometown team, and I know torture about as well as Jets fans, if not better. So I'm not gonna lie though, I'm really excited for this game.
Well, let's get into it. And
I think that makes one of us.
Wow. Wow. There you go. As the Vikings are earning the title as the best team in football right now, which is well-deserved because not only are they undefeated, but it's not like one of those we've had teams over the last couple of years where they're undefeated, but then we play the game of who have they really played. That is not necessary for the Minnesota Vikings who have taken out teams like the 49ers, the Texans, the Packers in Lambeau. It's a spectacular resume. So, Tyler, has anything surprised you? We'll get into the Sam Darnold and the specifics of certain things, but in terms of their overall play and kicking ass and taking names with some of these big-ass names, has any of that surprised you guys?
If you look at each individual thing, there is nothing that has surprised me so far this season. What has surprised me is all of them are happening together. One of the interesting things about this Vikings team, this was meant to be viewed as, okay, this is a retool year. Next year, JJ McCarthy. Sam Darnold gets a chance to prove himself. But this Vikings team knew what they had in Sam Darnold. They believed in Sam Darnold, and he was going to be the guy unless McCarthy blew them away so much they couldn't help but start him. And McCarthy was performing really well, and they are 100% sold he's a franchise guy. But he was not outperforming Darnold, and you could tell Darnold's confidence and chemistry with everybody in that offense was growing and growing and growing. And not only are they 4-0, they're doing it. They have not played with TJ Hawkinson yet. Jordan Addison has missed 9 of 16 quarters. And it's just been a collection of players that have just played really well within whatever system that they're being asked to. Everybody's playing at a high level. Everybody is doing, and the systems are working. I figured you'd have a few warts early on, and there have been a couple, but there has not been a true weakness. You cannot point to, hey, we can just go attack this guy, or we know that we can focus on stopping the pass because the run game isn't there. Everything's clicking. And this is like a 95th to 100 percentile outcome, because this first 5 games was the hardest stretch on the Vikings schedule. That's the wild thing. It gets a lot easier, and the Vikings are playing this well. The scoreboard may not say it, but they dominated the Giants. They dominated the 49ers. They dominated the Texans. They dominated the Packers. These have been convincing wins. None of them have been flukes, which is completely different from when you and I talked last, Paul, that 2022 Vikings team that was winning by the skin of their teeth every week. No, this is the number 1 defense in DVOA. The gap between 1 and 2 is the same gap between 2 and 16. This team is legit. And it reminds me of that 1998 Vikings team, because, Paul, the Jets also made the AFC Championship game in 98 as well with Vinny Testaverde. They lost me a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups. I will never forgive them for that. But yeah, my parents let me gamble as a 9-year-old. It was great. One of the caveats of that 98 Vikings team was Dennis Green almost got fired the year before. They had a journeyman quarterback in Brad Johnson, who then had to turn it over to Randall Cunningham in week 2 because he broke his leg. They weren't expected to finish. They were expected to finish 3rd or 4th in the division. Same with the Vikings. And they had a kicker who didn't miss. Gary Anderson made 94 of 94 kicks in the regular season. And right now, rookie kicker Will Reichert has made 20 of 20. So there are a lot of interesting parallels from then to now. And you have generational receivers on both teams, and Randy Moss and Justin Jefferson. It's cool to see everything come together a year or two earlier than we expected it. But make no mistake, these Vikings are real.
Wow.
Good, Woody.
You definitely inspired a lot of confidence in my Jets chances this week. That's wow. I can't even argue with those facts. But let me ask you, coming into the season, right? Because you said that, individually, a lot of things, nothing was a surprise. But together, that you got the symphony coming together. What were the expectations? Because I know everybody and their mama was high on the Lions, right? The Packers, Jordan Love was getting some love. The weapons for Caleb Williams. I had some of my closest childhood friends on this planet are Vikings fans. And they were swearing to me they were going to finish last in the division. I'm like, yo, put some respect on Darnold's name, all that type of stuff. What were you feeling in the beginning of the season for the outlook of this team?
I thought they would win 7 or 8. Under 6.5 was just a little bit too low. If I were setting a line, I would have set it right at 7.5, because that's where I really believe that this team would live. They're too talented to be actually bad. And there were too many people who were just discrediting a lot of the talent that was assembled on this team. And one of the differences between the defense last year and this year is fit. They lost Danielle Hunter, big loss. Hunter didn't fit how Brian Flores wanted to play defense. And that was a big factor in why he didn't end up coming back. Jonathan Grenard is not a better player than Danielle Hunter. He is a better player than Danielle Hunter in this system, because the system and how Brian Flores wants to attack. Grenard can comfortably drop back into coverage. Hunter can't. Andrew Van Ginkel played inside linebacker at Wisconsin, and now he's an edge rusher. He can drop back. Dallas Turner got comps from Flores and Nick Saban to Dante Hightower. He can drop back pretty easily. Last year, they were doing a lot of those Bengal Hawk blitzes where wherever the center ends up sliding, if they slide right, that guy backs off. So you had defensive tackles consistently dropping into coverage. I don't want 315-pound Harrison Phillips dropping into coverage. You can pick that apart all day. But if you have an edge rusher who's 250 pounds drop back, who's got good movement skills, that creates a whole different level of challenge for the offense. Fit and talent specific for roles, and getting the right people in place in year 2 that Brian Flores defense, I think, has made a massive impact. And offensively, you're starting to get more cohesiveness. The offensive line has played together consistently. The only new guy is Blake Brandel, and Brandel's been with the team since 2020, so he's not really that new. You have continuity at tight end. Johnny Munt's been here 3 years. Josh Oliver's in year 2. Jordan Addison is in year 2. Jalen Naylor, who was a 6th-round pick in 2022, is in year 3. There are a lot of players who have been around the block. You add in Aaron Jones, who's a really good running back in a system that he already kind of understands. Now you're cooking with gas. And the fact that everything's coming together like it is, I think it's without question right now that Kevin O'Connell is coach of the year in the NFL. He still has to earn it the next 14 weeks, but right now he's coach of the year based on how he's done it. Sam Darnold just won NFC Offensive Player of the Month, which I wrote about on Monday for A to Z Sports, saying that he should win it and why it really wasn't a contest. And this team is just, everything's clicking. And every once in a while, you have those special seasons where everything just seems to be working. And the Vikings have that right now. And it's really hard to argue against them being the number 1 team unless you want to give it to the 4-0 Chiefs, which I completely understand.
Yeah, let's get into Sam Darnold. He leads the league in passing touchdowns, and he does it by at least 3 passing touchdowns. The next closest guy is Baker Mayfield. So are we ever going to see J.J. McCarthy ever again? Or do the Vikings just say, whoa, this Sam Darnold thing's pretty great. Let's just sign him. And it's the Baker Mayfield story. It's the Geno Smith story, that the right fit, the right team, the right everything. And okay, you know what, as the Vikings are already what they are so far on the season, maybe it wouldn't hurt. JJ could just continue to learn and develop behind the scenes, and we'll just ride it. We've got a great thing here with old Sammy, and we're just going to keep going with it.
That's a really tough question. I think if Sam Darnold wins an MVP and takes this team to the Super Bowl, I think then they're going to have the conversation of, hey, maybe we just need to bring this guy back. But there is like a mutual understanding. Hey, Sam, we're going to sign you for 1 year. We're going to give you $10 million. This is going to be your chance to go make big money for somebody else. Like, there's this mutual understanding. But do you get rid of the guy who just won you a Super Bowl? Like Trent Dilfer, the Ravens moved on from him. He didn't win that Super Bowl. Ray Lewis, Jamie Sharper, those guys won that Super Bowl in 2000 with the Ravens. And if Darnold ends up being that guy, you just don't say no to a good quarterback. I relate it to the 2004 San Diego Chargers. They just had the first overall pick. They drafted Eli Manning. They traded him for Phillip Rivers. But they have a 4th-year quarterback on the roster named Drew Brees, who balls out, makes the Pro Bowl, and then they're left with this conundrum. Well, what do? We have 2 guys that we want to play. Well, they kept Drew Brees on a franchise tag. Then in week 15 or 16, he just destroys his shoulder diving for a fumble. And that made their decision for them. And I think if you have a ball-out season like that, where Darnold is just too good to say no to, then if you can get him on like a 2-year deal worth like $50 million, then maybe you make that work. But I really don't think it's a conversation unless he's an MVP and he gets you to the Super Bowl, because they are obsessed with JJ McCarthy and the growth and development he showed in the preseason in training camp. Because that preseason game where he just balled out for 188 yards, 2 touchdowns was a manifestation of how much he grew during training camp and how that progression was real. There's a phrase that they use. The process is the progress. And the process that they've been using with McCarthy has just wowed every single person in that building, enough where the beat writers for the Vikings, who aren't necessarily the most positive, upbeat group in the world, were all just gushing over McCarthy and how the team felt about him. And to me, that spoke a lot of volumes. So I don't think Darnold's going to stay, but somebody's going to give him big money. And if he ends up in the right organization, I think it could be big. I will laugh, though, if the Panthers give him another contract because of what he's done here. I think that'll just be funny.
That would be. Quick follow-up on Sam Darnold real quick. I know you guys don't have a lot of experience with him because it's the offseason and then these first handful of games. I'm curious, he has a chance to, speaking of one of his former teams, the Jets are the ones who drafted him 3rd overall. Obviously, Sam has played really well. Is he juiced up for the fact that he could shove it in the Jets' face? He gave a very respectful answer. he was tossed one of those softballs that he could have dunked on the Jets if he wanted to about them, him having success now and coulda, shoulda, woulda had it with the Jets. And he was very kind, saying, I should have taken more advantage of my opportunities. And he took all the blame on himself, which Jet fans, and there's a lot of Jet fans that really love Sam and didn't want him to get traded in the first place. So I'm kind of curious, do you think he's going to be this hell-bent, revenge, bloodlusting guy on Sunday? Does he have that in him? Is that on his mind?
I haven't talked to him.
Sure.
My sense is no. My sense is he wants to go in there and get the win, and he'll do whatever it takes to go get that win. I really don't think he harbors any ill will towards the Jets. And he's talked about it where he thought that he had to do everything all at once. And when he threw a pick, it would just weigh on him. Like, I blew it. Like, I need to carry this team. And the Jets weren't in a great position to start Sam Darnold when they drafted him in 2018. And I think we're learning more and more with the success in future stops like Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith, that situation matters a whole hell of a lot when it comes to a quarterback. And I think he learned a lot. He learned a ton from the process Brock Purdy used with Kyle Shanahan on how to just prepare for games, how to think about playing the position. And I think those things have all mattered. Like the success of Geno, he got, when the Jets moved on from him, he was a backup in New York. He was a backup in San Diego. And then he was a backup for the Seahawks. And he got to see how guys in front of him really got to approach the game and learn and hone his craft without having all this pressure put on him. And then he gets the starting job in Seattle in 2022. And now you have top 10 quarterback Geno Smith. I think that experience has really helped Darnold a ton. And when he gives that softball answer where he doesn't harbor any ill will towards the Jets, I don't think that's PR coach speak. I think that's real. I don't think he harbors anything towards the Jets other than being appreciative that they drafted him.
I just need to take a moment because I was one of those that was so upset that they gave up on Sam. Didn't think
Sam sexual, I believe, is the proper term. Is what those Jet people calls them. But go ahead, Wudi.
That is what some people. But those are the people that fell in love with a throw at one pro day from one boy who was never ready to be a man with the New York Jets, and now he's somewhere else. He is not on the same path as Geno or Sam. But now I'm not on the same path as this interview. So let me go back. Let me take it back. Let me take it back, Tyler. Take it back. So with this team, and I will speak from the opposites, from the Sam doubters, right? You can even see in the comments, people throwing in ghost emojis and all that type of stuff. Some people might say, "Oh, well, I've seen this song and dance before." With the Panthers, right? Sam's first game as an ex-Jet was against the New York Jets, right? Got that dub. Started off 3-0. He led the league in rushing touchdowns, not passing. It was rushing touchdowns more than any running back, more than any player in the league. And then CMC gets hurt, wheels start falling off, and then back to earth, Sam Darnold, and he went. We kind of know what happened from there. Is there any fear, I guess, of something similar? Hot start, 4-0, lead the league in passing touchdowns. Is there any fear that something can happen to just have the wheels to start falling off and walls start crashing down on what we're looking at right now with the Vikings?
I think there's always going to be that fear with somebody who does not have a track record of success. But when you look at some of those things that you talked about, Woody, that Panthers team played the three worst teams in the league other than themselves to start the year. And that's one of the reasons why Darnold had as much success. The Vikings whipped the 49ers behind the woodshed. Then they took the Houston Texans behind that woodshed and destroyed them. And then they had to create a whole nother woodshed for that drubbing 28-0 in the first half before that things kind of started to come apart. Like the process, I think the process that Darnold is using with this organization and this team and the scheme, I think all that matters a hell of a lot here because how he's approaching things are really, really impressive. He's making a couple hey, dude, maybe don't throw that. He's got a little bit of that gunslinger mentality in him, But I want to read off some stats that I grabbed. I grabbed this on Monday before the Monday night games, but I don't think any of these were changing. He leads the NFL in touchdown passes with 11, passer rating at 118.9, longest pass of 97 yards, adjusted yards per attempt at 9.59, passing TD percentage of 10.4. Some of that is like you could call misnomers, a little like they're not sustainable metrics. Touchdowns are inherently random. So I'm not expecting him to finish with like 46 touchdowns, which is what he's projected to finish at by the end of the year. I think 35 is a pretty dang good number. If he ends up finishing there, I think you'd be very happy with it. But some of the other metrics, like yards per attempt, he's second at 8.8. Net yards per attempt, 7.49. That's fourth in the league. Completion percentage, 68.9 is tied for 10th. Like he's doing some really, really good things, and he's making throws with good process. He wants to attack down the field. The offensive line is giving him great pockets in front of him, and he's taking advantage of those opportunities. I think that this is very sustainable with Sam Darnold, and as long as they keep playing like this and give him those opportunities to make those kind of throws, I think you are looking at a guy who could really be in contention for MVP. Not comeback player of the year, though. They changed that to injury only after the Joe Flacco debacle last year, because it should have went to DeMar Hamlin. Flacco's story was cool, but Flacco didn't die on the field. So Darnold has no chance to win that award. But, man, he's been a fun story, and this doesn't feel like a fluke. It does feel real.
Again, we got our boy Tyler here talking all things Purple People Eaters here on the program, which is a lot of fun. You said a lot of interesting stats there, Tyler, and a lot of them like, damn, okay, okay. But there's a stat that I have that may trump all of those stats for the Vikings, and credit to Rich Eisen. He had it from the NFL Network desk. The Vikings have only trailed this season for give or take 3 minutes.
3 minutes and 26 seconds.
I'm glad you know it specifically. There you are. The Vikings, through the first month of the season, have only trailed. They've only, for 3 minutes and 26 seconds, looked up at the scoreboard and went, we're down.
I have a better stat for you.
Seconds. Oh, please.
The Vikings have played 4 hours of football. They have led for 3 hours, 31 minutes, and some odd seconds.
Yeah, there you go. That's a pretty good one, too. And the other thing is, so that's impressive, right? We just said that 3 minutes, 26 seconds. I believe, and maybe you'll know this off the top of your head, Tyler, I heard on the Rich Eisen show, the next closest team is like at 16 minutes, of it's such a dramatic gap. It's the Vikings and then everybody else. So I'm curious, because that's as impressive as the stat as you could say. But also, on the other hand, is that adversity at some time is going to hit, unless, of course, the Vikings go 17-0, I suppose. But if they do not, which seems more likely than not they won't, that there will be adversity at some point. They certainly haven't seen it through the first month of the season, to your point. I think some of the final scores, if people are box score watching, may not fully give the love to the Vikings that they deserve, because they'll see some of those final scores or how things were, and they'll go, But if they were watching the games, they will see the dominance that there was. How do you believe this Vikings team is going to handle adversity? Again, me and Wudi are probably hoping that some of that adversity is happening on Sunday in London. But if not London at some point, that they will either be down for a significant chunk of time. Sam Darnold may get the turnover. The ghost is the people apparently love using that ghost emoji. Hopefully we can get some run of that on Sunday. But they're using a lot of that chutzpah. How do you believe this team will respond? Because inevitably at some point that's going to come, the adversity. So you may not think about it. They've already dealt with a lot of adversity, and being able to do so in wins is such a big deal. Let's go back to the 49er game. Third quarter, Fred Warner accidentally leg whips Justin Jefferson in the quad. He does not return in that game. The 49ers come within 6 points. Sam Darnold has to lead the drive without TJ Hawkinson, without Jordan Addison, without Justin Jefferson. They bleed over 6.5 minutes off the clock in a 14-play drive, including multiple third down strikes down the field. One of them, which was highlighted by, I think, every film guy, where he finds Jalen Naylor in a crowd of 3 up the seam, just a rifle. And he leads the drive. They get up 2 scores, and they go on to win that football game. Last week against the Green Bay Packers, they allowed 22 straight points after going up 28-0. What does Sam Darnold do?
lead them down the field by passing the football and getting up by 2 scores again. Like, they have already dealt with adversity within the context of these wins, and that is such a big deal when you're talking about dealing with adversity down the line, because while they have been dominant, they also haven't been easy, and they've had to deal with some of those adversity issues that you mentioned. And because of that, I think they're going to be more well equipped when, hey, you face a team, let's say fourth quarter, Vikings are down by 3, 2 minutes left. This team is going to be more ready for that than you would think from a 4-0 team who has a plus 57 point differential, because they've already dealt with it within the context of the game script. Like, this team is relatively battle tested considering all the circumstances involved. And I'm not really concerned about that. I think some people might be, but I don't think that they would have seen the ins and outs of every single game like those of us who cover the team have, because you may forget that Jefferson was out for a quarter and a half. And they needed to seal the deal without their top 3 pass catchers. And they did. Like, you may not have noticed that, hey, this wasn't a close game in Green Bay. It got close. And then they put the foot on the gas and took them out. The Packers, other than their first drive, never had the ball with a chance to take the lead.
Wow.
Like, they made sure, even though they were starting to lose control, that they got back into it. And I think those elements of adversity are going to make a big impact down the line.
Pride. I'm just a proud fan of Darnold, just making those drives. I knew he could do it. Another thing that I knew that, Jets fans were kind of surprised to hear. And honestly, I think the quote was kind of taken out of context. Like, they put, the words, on a little square on Instagram. But when you actually look at the video, I think he actually said it with respect in terms of Justin Jefferson saying, hey, man, I'm not Garrett Wilson, in preparation of that 49ers game. And, so many Jets fans were looking at that saying, oh, how dare he say that? And 4 games later, we're I don't know who would be saying that Jefferson and Garrett Wilson are the same. But I just want to hear from you, Tyler, somebody who has been covering the team, been right there. Tell us what makes Jettas so special on that football field.
So that quote specifically was the reporter was asking, hey, what can you learn from how the Niners cover Jefferson? He's like, well, I can learn the defense, but he's not Justin Jefferson in the fact that he doesn't get double teamed pretty much every single play. And Garrett Wilson is a very good wide receiver. I think he's going to be very good for a long time. He's not Justin Jefferson, and that's not disrespectful. And that's not how Jefferson goes about his business. He doesn't smack talk in the media. He's very honest, has a lot of candor. And like, when he was dealing with this whole contract situation, he's like, they'll figure it out. Like, I'm not concerned about it. I know that this organization is going to pay me what I'm worth. I know I'm going to be here for training camp, and all's going to be good. Like, he was very honest about it. He didn't degrade the organization. He didn't say, effing pay me my money. No, he knew that they were going to take care of him, and they did. Jefferson is just going to be straight up honest. Nobody in the league, other than maybe Tyreek Hill, gets the kind of attention that Justin Jefferson gets. And it's with good reason. Teams have tried to man up Justin Jefferson, and they get destroyed. The London game 2 years ago against the Saints and Marshawn Lattimore, Jefferson took him to school. You can't do that. You have to be an elite corner. Derek Stingley they tried it with, who's taken one spot above Sauce Gardner. Jefferson torched him. Made it look easy. Like, can Sauce hang with him? I'm going to be 100% honest with you, and no disrespect to Sauce. The answer is probably no, because Jefferson is just on a different level. I think Sauce is going to be able to win some of those battles, but if you go 70 plays and 35 of them are passing downs, how many times is Jefferson going to win? It's probably going to be more like 20 to 25, if not more. Jefferson is just on a different level. Cornerback is extremely hard. And we're talking about a Jerry Rice type wide receiver. Jefferson is just better than everybody. We all know it. He's special. And he's going to be very respectful to you in the press conference afterwards.
Tyler, I wish we had more time, so I only have one last one to share with you, and it's prediction time. Crystal ball it for us in London. So I don't know if you have to adjust your crystal ball accordingly to the proper time zone as you're about to dish this out. But what is going to happen? It is the first London game of the year. It's Jets, it's London, it's Rodgers, it's Jets, it's Vikings. A lot of people are really hyped up for this game, and for a lot of good reasons. So give it to us. What's going to happen in this game on Sunday?
You know, the one thing we haven't talked about at all is Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
If there's one team Aaron Rodgers hates more than any in the NFL, it's the Minnesota Vikings. Back in 2017, I was at the game where Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone when Anthony Barr sacked him and didn't intentionally spear him into the ground, but he wasn't trying to be soft either. It was kind of one of those in-betweens. Broke his collarbone. Of course, big rivalry. Vikings fans went a little too far, celebrating the injury. I was pissed. I paid $200+ to see this game. I wanted to watch Aaron Rodgers play football. I was glad the Vikings got the win, but I wanted to see Rodgers play. So he harbors a lot of resentment for this team, and he very well should. Plus, Mike Zimmer made his life hell for almost a decade. Mike Zimmer figured out Aaron Rodgers. He knew how to mess with him. He knew how to stop him. And then when Zimmer left, well, Rodgers started to kind of have a little bit more success against Minnesota. He's going to be ready for this game. Overall prediction, I think the Vikings are just going to whip butt in the trenches. From what I've seen, the Jets defensive line just has not played up to what we know their defensive line is capable of. I think that the offensive tackles are going to be able to stop Will McDonald because they stopped Will Anderson. They stopped Daniil Hunter. They stopped Nick Bosa. They destroyed Rashawn Gary. I think they're going to be able to handle McDonald. And the defensive line is going to cause some issues for those guys up front with how they like to blitz, how they pressure. The Vikings are tied for the league lead in pressures. They lead the league in sacks. I see that trend continuing. I think it's a 27-17 Vikings win, but I do think it's a competitive, fun game to watch until the end.
Wow. I don't know if you meant that last sentence, but it was nice for us to hear that we can look forward to it a little bit. But that is, I think that's an extremely fair prediction. I definitely have been very disappointed with how the Jets defensive line has played thus far.
I gotta ask, how in the world could you lose to Bo Nix, man? Bo Nix is bad. Bo Nix might be the worst top 12 pick I've ever seen.
Yeah, Tyler, to lose a game in which the starting quarterback of the other team had -7 passing yards at halftime is and
that's a Viking stat.
Yeah, that's disgusting. And then to hear, well, it was raining outside. I'm like, what? And I get it. I'm on my couch and they're the ones that are there in the freezing rain or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So like, take that for what you will. But I'm like, damn, if the Jets have these aspirations, which they did and do, they're still a game out of first place in the AFC, so they still have all the aspirations they have of playoffs and all that. Cold weather and weather inclement things are part of the package. So if they're complaining about that now, like things in a couple of months, if they were lucky and fortunate enough to be in that situation, would also be there. So I'm still asking myself that same question every night, Tyler. I ask it to my therapist and they ask me, do they want me to answer? I'm like, no, I'm just saying it out into the room for no apparent reason. So no, I still don't know. And I still see it every once in a while, kind of obviously, because another game hasn't happened yet. The highlights or low lights, depending on your perspective, are kind of coming through. And I'm just still like, damn, how did that happen? And maybe that's when they look back at later down in the season, go, damn, conference loss. It was the Jets' first conference loss of the season. That game in particular, not that I think Denver's going to be in the mix, but like those kind of games are the ones that separate good teams and bad teams of trying to your point. You said that the Vikings finding ways with the adversity that we're in middle of games to like sack up, and you talked about like the greatness of being able to win but still learn lessons in the middle of it from adversity. The Jets certainly did not do that against Denver. They did do that against Tennessee when they had troubles, and they said, okay, let's reset, halftime adjustments, things of that nature, and they were able to bounce back and make some noise. But They certainly did not do that against Denver. So what kind of energy or attitude are we even getting on this foreign trip is interesting, because the Jets, historically speaking, both in just, I guess we could categorize it in this current regime, they've had slow starts. If they have a slow start against this Vikings team, who have gotten off to very quick starts against all these other teams, it could be hell. And if the Vikings are number one in sacks, they're number one in this pressure rate, I think they're number two only behind, I think it was Denver, and some of those blitz percentages, like leads, that sort of pressure rates, I don't like that combination. That's not a recipe, Tyler. You're cooking in the kitchen. Hey, Paul, how does this taste? Not great, Tyler. Not great. So that's how I'm feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. I only asked the bonus question because that's a game the Vikings would historically lose. They have a tendency to do that. That they gave Tim Tebow, I think, his best passing performance of all time in December of 2011. And you can't see it, but right above my head is a picture of the swamp. I'm a humongous Florida Gator fan, so I was locked into that one.
Sure.
But man, losing to Bo Nix, Rodgers is just going to come out pissed. And that could be a recipe for disaster for the Vikings if they just start lighting it up. Because this defense, they're going to bore you to sleep. They are going to want you to just throw the ball to the flat, throw the ball to the flat, throw the ball to the flat. And no, if you can protect, you can find some stuff downfield, but it's very hard to protect for 4 seconds against this unit.
Yeah, actually, let's, I know we're keeping you way over, so if and when you have to leave, feel free to do so, but that's another one that I've heard some people talk about. I'm going to have another Vikings person on the show tomorrow morning. That's what some people have talked about with the passing yards allowed for the Minnesota Vikings. What do you make of that stat? What does that say or mean to you? Does that mean that there are some of those opportunities on the other side, or what have you? I heard some people talk about some of those numbers where the Vikings can get got back there.
It doesn't matter. It does not matter that the Vikings are last in the National Football League in passing yards. Let me tell you why. They are first in EPA per play allowed, first in success rate, first in drop back EPA per play, second in drop back success rate, second in rush EPA allowed, and seventh in success rate. This is a great defense. And those are with those parameters of garbage time. Even if you take out the parameters of garbage time, they're still first in EPA allowed and first in success rate allowed. This is a great defense. The underlying metrics will tell you. I don't care about passing yard stats. Yards don't matter. You know what matters? Points. 14.75 points per game allowed. This is a great defense. If you look at baseline statistics and you don't look at the underlying ones to kind of understand what's going on, then you're doing yourself kind of an overall scope a disservice, because you're not really learning about it. You're just pointing, oh, they're the worst in passing yards allowed. I heard somebody say that yesterday. I'm like, well, why? They're forcing teams to throw 70.96% of the time. That's like a Texas Tech Mike Leach air raid. There are levels to it, and they're only allowing 300 rush yards a game. Why? Because his defense is elite, and if they can keep this up, it's going to be hard for anyone to touch them.
And also, just a carryover stat from that, with the passing yards allowed, that in passing as often as they do, according to the analytics, that feeds into the pressure numbers. That feeds into the sack numbers. If teams have no other choice but to play catch up, that feeds into what the Vikings want anyway. So maybe it's a little bit of a cost of blood on the other side of what you're sacrificing, but you get it on the other side, and the sweetness of the candy on the other side, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a combination of everything.
Okay, beautiful. Wudi, any final thoughts? Go ahead.
I just I appreciate how respectful you were. I hope your team just is respectful. Just let us down gently this Sunday. As Sam remains undefeated against his former team. But I guess my final thought is, if you can whisper sweet nothings to whoever needs to hear it, I desperately need TJ Hawkinson to fix 2 of my fantasy teams. All right. I got him just stashed in IR. All right. And I fell for Kyle Pitts again. I thought, new QB, I fell. So I need TJ Hawkinson. Right. Did he practice? He started practicing. I heard
he starts practicing tomorrow in London.
All right. There we go. Tea and crumpets practicing. I need him to save my team. I know it's a bye week, but after that bye week, I need him to save my team.
The idea with Hawkinson is by starting the practice window on Friday, right after the bye, it's the Lions on Sunday, and then Thursday against the Rams. So they would have 3 games where they could activate him, or they don't have to, depending on how the practice goes when they fully ramp him up. I would expect him to potentially play against the Lions, but they want to keep that flexibility because it may not be smart and play against the Lions and then play 4 days later. So monitor it. We'll see how it goes, but good Lord, when Hawkinson comes back, this offense is going to be bonkers.
Well, luckily, Hawkinson won't be ready for the Jets game. So rest up, big boy, and we'll see you at some point, perhaps later in the season. I'll tell you my radio prediction before the year. This is before anything. I had a Jets-Vikings Super Bowl, Tyler. So somebody believed in the old purple people eaters. Thank you very much. So we'll see you in the Super Bowl. Long story short. Good luck on Sunday, pal.
Looking forward to it. Good luck to you guys as well.
All right, there he is. Tyler Fornes,
Appreciate
baby.
you.
Join us here on the show. Wudi, we had great fans. Shout out to everybody in the comments section. We truly appreciate it. And I'll go back one more time to our favorite Austrian Jets fan who also made the intro for, what is that, pounds? Do you know what the signal is? That's pounds, right?
Or euro?
Yeah,
Euro?
Yeah, euro. Okay, maybe, perhaps. I don't know. But either way, I just want to make sure every time we get a super chat, my downers are Ryan Luna. There you go.
Wow.
Going to stop the Vikes in their tracks. Let's go. We can only hope. We can only hope. So there you go. Wudi, great show, man. And we'll see everybody next time. Take care, everybody.
Absolutely.